In the vast, glittering expanse of the cosmos, where stars whispered secrets to one another and galaxies danced in eternal rhythm, there existed a world called Zerathia. It was a realm of shimmering spires and luminous forests, where the air hummed with the songs of ancient crystals and the inhabitants moved with an ethereal grace that could make even the hardest heart skip a beat. Among them was Princess Lyra, heir to the throne, a vision of otherworldly beauty. Her hair cascaded like strands of moonlight, pure white and flowing down her back in soft waves that caught the light of distant suns. Her skin was a flawless alabaster, glowing faintly under the twin moons of her homeworld, and her ears tapered into delicate points, like those of an elfin legend brought to life. She wore garments that hugged her curves with elegant sensuality, fabrics woven from star silk that shimmered in hues of deep indigo and silver, revealing just enough to tease the imagination, accentuating her lithe, alluring form that seemed designed to captivate. Lyra was no fragile flower, though. She was a warrior princess, trained in the arts of diplomacy and combat, her mind as sharp as the blades forged in Zerathia's volcanic hearts. But fate, that capricious weaver of destinies, had a way of throwing even the mightiest into chaos. It began on a night when the stars themselves seemed to tremble. Zerathia was engulfed in turmoil. A rebellion had erupted, fueled by shadowy factions who sought to overthrow the royal line. The rebels, a ragtag alliance of disgruntled warlords and opportunistic mercenaries from neighboring systems, had stormed the palace under the cover of a meteor shower. Explosions lit the sky like fireworks gone mad, and the air filled with the acrid scent of plasma burns and shattered crystal. Lyra fled through the labyrinthine corridors of her home, her heart pounding like a war drum. She clutched a small energy dagger in one hand, its blade humming with restrained power, while her other hand pressed against the wall for guidance. Behind her, the shouts of pursuers echoed, their boots thudding against the polished floors. "The princess, she's heading for the docking bays." One growled, his voice distorted through a helmet modulator. Lyra's breath came in sharp gasps. She could feel the heat of their weapons charging, ready to unleash bolts that would sear through flesh and bone. She burst into the hangar, a cavernous space filled with sleek Zerathian shuttles that gleamed like polished jewels. But the rebels had anticipated her escape. They'd sabotaged most of the vessels, leaving only a few operational amid the wreckage. Desperation clawed at her as she sprinted toward the nearest one, her elegant gown tearing at the seams from the frantic movement. Just as she reached the ramp, a squad of rebels rounded the corner, their rifles trained on her. "Surrender, Your Highness," their leader sneered, a hulking figure with cybernetic enhancements glinting under the emergency lights. "Your reign ends here." In that moment of peril, when all seemed lost, a streak of silver cut through the chaos. A human vessel, battered and unassuming, plummeted into the hangar from an emergency breach in the ceiling. It was no grand warship, just a freelance cargo hauler, piloted by a man named Jace. He was a wanderer of the stars, a human from the distant colonies of Earth, with a reputation for getting into and out of trouble. Jace had skin tanned by the harsh rays of a dozen suns, eyes the color of stormy oceans, and a build honed by years of manual labor and zero-gravity skirmishes. His hair was a tousled mess of dark waves, and he wore a simple flight suit that clung to his muscular frame. Scarred from past adventures, Jace hadn't come to Zerathia for heroism. He was there on a routine smuggling run, dodging interstellar tariffs with a hold full of exotic spices and tech gadgets. But when his scanners picked up the distress signals amid the rebellion's jamming fields, something in him stirred, an innate human drive to meddle where angels feared to tread. He crash-landed his ship with a thunderous roar, the hull scraping against the hangar floor in a shower of sparks. The rebels turned, caught off guard, as Jace leaped from the cockpit, his sidearm blazing with precision shots that dropped two of them before they could react. "Get in," he shouted to Lyra, his voice rough and commanding, laced with an accent that rolled like thunder from Earth's forgotten wilds. She hesitated for a split second, her pointed ears twitching at the unfamiliar timbre, but the whine of incoming fire made her decision for her. She dashed up the ramp into his ship, the door sealing behind her just as a barrage of energy bolts peppered the hull. Inside, the cockpit was a far cry from the opulent Zerathian vessel she knew, cluttered with holographic displays flickering erratically, empty ration packs scattered about, and a faint, earthy aroma that puzzled her. Jace strapped into the pilot's seat, his fingers dancing over the controls with the confidence of someone who'd outrun black holes. "Hold on, Princess," he said with a wry grin, glancing back at her. "This ride's gonna be bumpy." As the ship lurched into the void, engines screaming in protest, the rebels' fighters gave chase. Laser fire streaked past the viewport, illuminating Lyra's wide eyes. She gripped the armrests, her body tense, every sense heightened. Jace weaved through the asteroid field surrounding Zerathia, his ship dodging debris with acrobatic finesse. But the pursuers were relentless, their ships faster and more maneuverable. One blast clipped the wing, sending alarms blaring. That's when Jace's ingenuity shone through, a trait that made humans so unpredictably formidable in the galaxy's eyes. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small vial, a homemade concoction he'd brewed from earth herbs during long hauls, a blend of lavender, sage, and a hint of peppermint, distilled into a potent scent designed to mask engine trails or confuse sensor arrays. In the black market circuits was his secret weapon against trackers. Time for a little earth magic, he muttered, spraying a mist into the ventilation system. The aroma filled the cabin, subtle yet pervasive, like a forest after rain. To Lyra's sensitive Zerathian senses, evolved to detect pheromones and atmospheric shifts, the scent was intoxicating, wrapping around her like a warm embrace. But its true purpose unfolded outside. As the mist vented into space through micropores in the hull, it created a false trail, mimicking the chemical signature of a failing reactor. The rebel sensors locked onto the decoy, leading them astray into a cluster of volatile asteroids. Explosions bloomed in the distance as their ships collided with the rocks, buying Jace and Lyra precious time to jump to hyperspace. As the stars blurred into streaks, Lyra turned to her rescuer, her chest heaving from the adrenaline. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice a melodic whisper, tinged with awe. Up close, she noticed the way his muscles flexed under the suit, the sweat beading on his brow, and that lingering scent that seemed to seep into her very being. "Jace," he replied, flashing a cocky smile that made her pointed ears flush with an unfamiliar warmth. "Just a guy with bad timing and good instincts. And you?" "Lyra," she said, her eyes locking onto his. In that instant, amid the hum of the engines, something sparked, a connection born of danger and destiny, one that would linger long after the stars had settled. The ship hurtled through the void, leaving Zerathia's chaos behind, but the real adventure was just beginning. Jace glanced at the navigation charts, plotting a course to a neutral station where they could regroup. Lyra, still catching her breath, couldn't shake the way his presence filled the small space, strong, unyielding, yet with a hint of vulnerability in his eyes. She had heard tales of humans, reckless, resilient beings who thrived on chaos, but experiencing one firsthand was something else entirely. As they sped away, the princess found herself drawn to him, her mind replaying the rescue, the way he charged in without hesitation, his clever trick with the scent that not only fooled the enemy but now clung to her senses like a promise. "Why did you save me?" she asked softly, leaning closer, her gauzy dress shifting to reveal the elegant curve of her shoulder. Jace shrugged, but his gaze lingered on her form, appreciating the exotic allure that made her seem like a dream incarnate. "Seemed like the right thing to do. Besides, who wouldn't want to play hero to a beauty like you?" Her laughter echoed lightly in the cockpit, a sound like tinkling chimes, breaking the tension. But beneath it, a current of curiosity stirred about this human, his world, and the unexpected pull she felt toward him. Little did she know, that scent would bind their fates in ways neither could imagine. Hours blurred into days as they navigated the treacherous paths of interstellar space. Jace shared stories of Earth, its vast oceans, towering mountains, and the indomitable spirit of its people. Lyra listened, entranced, her white hair glowing under the dim cabin lights. In return, she spoke of Zerathia's wonders, the crystal gardens that sang symphonies, the ancient rituals that bound souls across lifetimes. Their conversations flowed like a river, meandering from laughter to quiet confessions, building a bridge between their worlds. One evening, as the ship idled in a quiet nebula for repairs, Jace offered her a meal from his stores, simple earth fare, spiced with herbs reminiscent of his homemade scent. The flavors exploded on her tongue, foreign yet delightful, mirroring the way he was invading her thoughts. This is incredible," she murmured, her eyes meeting his over the makeshift table. He reached across, his hand brushing hers, sending a jolt through both. "Glad you like it. There's more where that came from." The air grew thick with unspoken desires, the nebula's colors painting the viewport in romantic hues. Lyra's heart raced. Humans were known for their passion, their ability to love fiercely amid uncertainty. As she leaned in, drawn by that magnetic pull, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. But danger wasn't far behind. Scanners beeped, a rebel scout ship had picked up their trail. Jace cursed under his breath, pulling her close protectively as he powered up the engines. "Looks like our little getaway's over. Time to show them what a human and a princess can do together. They evaded the scout with a daring maneuver through the nebula's dense clouds, Jace's piloting skills shining as he anticipated every turn. Lyra assisted, her knowledge of stellar phenomena guiding them to safety. In the aftermath, as adrenaline faded, she found herself in his arms, their breaths mingling. "You saved me again," she whispered, her fingers tracing the line of his jaw, "and I'd do it 1,000 times." He replied, his voice husky. The kiss that followed was electric, a fusion of worlds, her soft, glowing lips against his firm ones, the scent of earth herbs enveloping them like a cocoon. From that moment, their bond deepened, a whirlwind of discovery. Lyra explored the contours of his body with curious hands, marveling at the warmth of human skin, while Jace revered her ethereal form, tracing the pointed tips of her ears that made her shiver with delight. Their nights aboard the ship became a tapestry of intimacy, blending laughter with passion, as they navigated not just space, but the uncharted territories of each other's hearts. Yet, the rebellion loomed, a shadow threatening to engulf them. Whispers of alliances forming against Zerathia reached their comms, and Lyra knew she couldn't run forever. "I must return," she told him one dawn as they lay entangled in the bunk, "to fight for my people." Jace nodded, his resolve steeling. "Then we'll face it together." Humans don't back down from a good fight, especially when love's on the line. As they plotted their return, the stars aligned in their favor, or so it seemed. But the universe had twists in store, ones that would test the very essence of their connection. As the ship sliced through the shimmering veil of hyperspace, Jace and Lyra found themselves in a fragile cocoon of stolen time. The rebellion's echoes still reverberated in their minds, but for now, the vastness of the cosmos offered a deceptive peace. They had charted a course back to Zerathia through a series of hidden warp relays, avoiding the main trade lanes where rebel patrols lurked like predators in the dark. Jace monitored the scanners with a focused intensity, his fingers occasionally brushing Lyra's as she leaned over the console, her presence a constant, intoxicating distraction. The air in the cabin hummed with the low thrum of the engines, but beneath it pulsed something more primal, a tension that had been building since their first kiss. Like a storm gathering on the horizon, Lyra moved with a fluid grace, her star-silk gown whispering against her skin as she adjusted the navigation holomap. The fabric clung to her curves in ways that made Jace's pulse quicken, the deep indigo material translucent in the soft glow of the displays. Hinting at the smooth, glowing expanse beneath, she caught him watching, her pointed ears twitching slightly, a subtle sign of her heightened awareness. "What troubles you, Jace?" she asked, her voice a silken murmur that wrapped around him like the scent that had first bound them. Her eyes, luminous pools of violet, held a mix of curiosity and desire, reflecting the nebula's colors that swirled outside the viewport. He cleared his throat, forcing his gaze back to the controls, but the heat rising in his chest betrayed him. "Just thinking about what's waiting for us. Rebels don't give up easy. And you're not just any target. You're everything to your people." His words hung heavy, laced with unspoken fears. What if they couldn't make it back? What if this fragile alliance between a human drifter and an alien princess shattered under the weight of war? She stepped closer, her body heat mingling with his in the confined space. The faint aroma of his earth herbs still lingered on her, a reminder of their escape, but now it mixed with her own natural essence, a subtle, floral musk that evoked blooming crystals under moonlight. "And you are everything to me now," she whispered, her hand resting on his shoulder, fingers tracing the firm muscles there. The touch sent a shiver down his spine, awakening sensations he'd tried to keep at bay during their hurried flight. Humans, she had learned, burned with an intensity that Zerathians admired from afar but rarely experienced, passionate, unrelenting, like a supernova in full bloom. Jace turned in his seat, pulling her gently onto his lap, the chair creaking under their combined weight. Her weight settled against him perfectly, her thighs straddling his in a way that made rational thought flee. "Lyra," he breathed, his hands sliding up her sides, feeling the warmth of her alabaster skin through the thin fabric. She arched slightly at his touch, her white hair cascading over them like a veil, framing her face in ethereal light. Their lips met again, slower this time, exploratory, as if savoring the calm before the inevitable storm. Her kiss was tentative at first, then deepening, her tongue brushing his with a curiosity that ignited fireworks in his veins. She tasted of stardust and sweetness, an alien allure that made him crave more. As their embrace intensified, the ship's alarms suddenly blared, a sharp, intrusive wail that shattered the moment. "Proximity alert," the computer intoned. "Unidentified vessels approaching." Jace swore under his breath, reluctantly breaking away, his body protesting the interruption. Lyra's cheeks flushed a soft lavender, her breath coming in ragged gasps, but her eyes sharpened with resolve. She slid off him, straightening her gown, though the disheveled look only heightened her appeal. On the scanners, 3 sleek fighters emerged from the shadows of a nearby asteroid belt, their hulls marked with the jagged insignia of the rebels. "They must have cracked our decoy trail," Jace muttered, throttling the engines to full. The ship lurched forward, but the pursuers were gaining, their weapons locking on with deadly precision. Laser fire grazed the shields, sending sparks cascading across the viewport. Lyra manned the auxiliary console, her fingers flying over the controls to reinforce the defenses. "I can jam their comms," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos. Together, they worked in sync, his raw piloting instinct complementing her advanced Zerathian tech knowledge. The chase twisted through the asteroid field, massive rocks tumbling like silent guardians. Jace banked hard, scraping the hull against a boulder to shake one fighter, which exploded in a brilliant flash against another. But the remaining 2 were relentless, firing torpedoes that homed in with unerring accuracy. "Hold on," Jace growled, initiating a risky maneuver, a slingshot around a larger asteroid to gain speed. As they whipped around, the G-forces pressed them back into their seats, Lyra's hand finding his amidst the turmoil. The contact was electric, a lifeline in the frenzy. They burst free from the field, but one torpedo clipped their rear, damaging the hyperdrive. Alarms screamed as systems flickered. "We're losing power," Lyra warned, her pointed ears flattening against her head in distress. Jace scanned for options. A derelict space station loomed ahead, an ancient outpost abandoned during some long-forgotten war. "There, we can hide inside, buy time for repairs." He steered toward it, the ship groaning in protest as they docked in a crumbling bay, the fighters momentarily losing them in the station's interference field. The interior was a labyrinth of rusted corridors and flickering lights, shadows dancing like ghosts. They grabbed emergency kits and ventured in, the air thick with dust and the faint hum of residual power. "We need to find the engineering core," Jace said, leading the way with his sidearm drawn. Lyra followed closely, her energy dagger glowing softly. The suspense built with every step, the creak of metal, the distant echo of what might be footsteps. Were the rebels boarding, or was it something worse lurking in the dark? In a dimly lit chamber, they found what they needed, spare parts scattered amid the wreckage. As Jace worked on patching the drive interface, sweat beading on his brow, Lyra stood guard, her senses attuned to every nuance, but the adrenaline from the chase lingered, morphing into something more heated. She watched him, the way his muscles rippled under his suit as he twisted wires, his focus unbreakable. "Jace," she murmured, stepping closer, her voice husky with need. "We might not have much time." He looked up, his stormy eyes meeting hers, and in that gaze, the world narrowed to just them. Setting down his tools, he pulled her into his arms, their bodies pressing together in the confined space. The kiss was urgent now, fueled by the brush with death, hands exploring with a desperation that spoke of borrowed moments. Her gown slipped from one shoulder, revealing the soft glow of her skin, and Jace's lips trailed down her neck, eliciting a soft moan that echoed in the chamber. She tugged at his suit, fingers deftly unzipping it to feel the warmth of his chest, the steady beat of his human heart, a rhythm that mesmerized her. Their connection deepened in the shadows, bodies moving in a dance as old as the stars. Lyra's hands roamed over him, marveling at the contrasts, his rough stubble against her smooth cheek, the strength in his embrace that made her feel both protected and desired. He lifted her effortlessly, her legs wrapping around his waist as they leaned against the console, the flickering lights casting erotic patterns on their forms. Whispers of pleasure filled the air, her melodic sighs blending with his deeper groans, building to a crescendo that drowned out the distant threats. But even in ecstasy, suspense hovered. A sudden clang echoed down the corridor, footsteps. Real this time. Rebels had found them. Jace pulled back reluctantly, both breathing heavily, clothes askew. "We have to move," he whispered, grabbing his weapon. Lyra nodded, her body still humming from their intimacy, but her warrior spirit reigniting. They gathered the repaired parts and slipped into the vents, hearts racing not just from passion, but from the peril closing in. Crawling through the tight ducts, the air grew stifling, their bodies brushing in ways that reignited sparks. Almost there, Jace encouraged, his voice low and reassuring. Emerging back at the ship, they sealed the hatch just as blaster fire erupted outside. The engines roared to life, the patch holding as they blasted out of the station. leaving the rebels scrambling. In the safety of hyperspace once more, Lyra leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. "That was intense," she said, a small smile playing on her lips, her hand tracing lazy circles on his thigh. Erotic charge between them lingered, a promise of more, but the universe's twists were far from over. As Zerathia drew nearer, the true test awaited, a confrontation that would demand every ounce of their bond. The ship system stabilized, but whispers from intercepted transmissions hinted at a larger plot. The rebels weren't just insurgents, they were backed by a rival empire, one that coveted Zerathia's crystal resources. Jace and Lyra pored over the data, their proximity a constant temptation. During a quiet watch, she initiated this time, her fingers slipping under his shirt, exploring the scars that told stories of his past adventures. "Tell me about this one," she purred, lips brushing his ear, her breath warm and inviting. He recounted a tale of a narrow escape from a black market deal gone wrong, his voice dropping lower as her touch grew bolder. The story wove into their caresses, building suspense in the narrative and in the air between them. Would they be interrupted again? The thought added an edge, making every moment more charged. They surrendered once more, this time slower, savoring the build-up, the way her body responded to his, arching in delight, her white hair fanning out like a halo as they moved together on the bunk, in the afterglow, wrapped in each other's arms. Lyra whispered secrets of her world, rituals where scents bound lovers eternally. "Your aroma, it's etched in me now," she confessed, nuzzling his neck. Jace held her close, his human loyalty fierce, vowing silently to protect her at all costs. But as alarms flickered with new warnings, the erotic respite gave way to mounting tension, the stars outside blurring into omens of what was to come. As Zerathia's azure glow bloomed on the viewport like a beacon in the endless night, the alarms crescendoed into a symphony of urgency, pulling Jace and Lyra from their intimate reverie. The afterglow faded into sharp focus, their bodies still entwined but minds snapping to the peril ahead. Incoming fleet signatures, the computer warned, its monotone voice slicing through the haze of their shared warmth. Jace disentangled himself gently, his fingers lingering on her hip for a moment longer than necessary, a silent promise amid the chaos. Lyra rose with him, her star-silk gown readjusting itself with a soft shimmer, her violet eyes narrowing as she scanned the readouts. The true test was upon them, not just a skirmish but a full-scale assault waiting in the wings of her homeworld. The ship dropped out of hyperspace with a jolt, thrusting them into the heart of a maelstrom. Zerathia's orbit was a battlefield, rebel cruisers loomed like jagged shadows against the planet's crystalline atmosphere, their cannons pulsing with malevolent energy. Royal Loyalist ships darted in desperate formations, trading fire in a dazzling display of plasma arcs and exploding debris. "By the stars," Lyra breathed, her pointed ears flattening as she recognized the flagship of her father's guard, battered but unyielding. The rebellion had escalated into open war, and their arrival was no coincidence. Intercepted chatter revealed the insurgents had anticipated her return, setting a trap to capture or kill the heir. Jace's jaw set in determination, his human grit rising like a tide. "We punch through," he declared, hands flying over the controls to arm the ship's meager weapons, upgraded turrets he'd scavenged from black market runs, now humming to life. Lyra nodded, sinking her energy dagger to the ship's systems for an improvised shield boost. Their bond, forged in passion and peril, fueled them now. She could feel his resolve echoing in her own, a curious harmony between alien grace and earthly tenacity that made her heart swell with an unfamiliar thrill. What surprises lay in this clash? Could a lone human and a princess turn the tide of a cosmic uprising? The first wave hit them like a thunderclap. Rebel interceptors swarmed, sleek and deadly, their pilots broadcasting taunts over open channels. The princess returns to her grave. One snarled, unleashing a volley that rocked their hull. Jace evaded with a barrel roll, the G-forces pressing them back. But Lyra countered by deploying a Zerathian pulse wave, a burst of electromagnetic disruption that fried two attackers' engines, sending them spiraling into oblivion. Explosions lit the void, fragments pinging off their shields like hail on a tin roof. "Nice shot," Jace grinned, his voice laced with adrenaline, stealing a glance at her. Even in the fury, his eyes held that spark, a reminder of their stolen moments, making her cheeks flush amid the drama. But the thrill turned deadly as a larger cruiser locked onto them, its tractor beams snaring their ship like an invisible noose. Alarms wailed, systems straining as they were dragged toward the maw of the enemy vessel. "They're boarding us," Lyra realized, her voice steady but threaded with curiosity. What drove these rebels so fiercely? Jace unstrapped, grabbing a rifle from the locker, his muscular frame coiled like a spring. Not if we board them first. In a surprising twist of human audacity, he overrode the beam, using it to pull them closer, ramming their docking port into the cruiser's hull with a grinding crash. Sparks flew, metal screamed, and they breached. The interior was a hive of confusion. Rebel troops in armored suits rushed the breach, blasters firing wildly. Jace charged ahead, his shots precise and lethal, dropping the front line with calculated fury. Lyra followed, her dagger extending into a glowing blade that sliced through armor like butter, her movements a ballet of lethality. They fought back to back, a whirlwind duo amid the smoke and shouts. One rebel lunged at her, his vibro knife humming, but Jace intercepted, tackling him to the deck in a brutal grapple. Fists flew, bones cracked, and Jace emerged victorious, bloodied but unbroken, his stormy eyes locking on hers. "You okay?" He panted, the drama of the moment heightening their connection. She saw him not just as lover, but as savior, a human hero defying the odds. Deeper into the cruiser, the air grew thick with tension, corridors echoing with distant battles. They hacked a terminal, Lyra's fingers dancing over alien interfaces while Jace covered her, his rifle barking at shadows. What they uncovered sent a thrill of surprise rippling through them. The rebellion's leader wasn't a mere warlord, but her own uncle, exiled years ago for treason. Holographic logs revealed his plot, alliances with the rival empire of Xandor, promising Zerathia's crystals in exchange for power. "He betrayed us all," Lyra whispered, her voice cracking with dramatic betrayal, tears glistening in her violet eyes. The curiosity burned. How deep did this conspiracy run? Had her family known? A squad ambushed them then, turning the hack into a frantic firefight. Blasts scorched the walls, and Jace took a grazing hit to his shoulder, pain flaring but fueling his rage. He roared, unleashing a barrage that cleared the hall, but not before Lyra dispatched the last with a precise throw of her dagger. She rushed to him, tearing a strip from her gown to bind the wound, her hands trembling not from fear, but from the surging emotions, the thrill of survival, the surprise of his unyielding strength. "You're insane, human," she murmured, her lips brushing his in a quick, passionate kiss amid the wreckage, the climax of their bond pulsing in the danger. Pushing onto the bridge, the stakes soared. The uncle, Lord Vexar, awaited in holographic splendor, his form projected larger than life, sneering down at them. "Lyra, my dear niece, and her pet human, how quaint." His voice dripped venom, but Jace fired at the console, disrupting the shield generators. Alarms blared shipwide as loyalist forces outside capitalized, pounding the cruiser with renewed vigor. Vexar's eyes widened in surprise. He hadn't anticipated a human's clever sabotage. "You think you can stop this? The Empire comes," bellowed, but Lyra hacked the comms, broadcasting the logs galaxy-wide. "The truth will," she countered, her voice ringing with dramatic defiance. The ship shuddered under impacts, bulkheads groaning as explosions rippled through. In a thrilling escape, Jace and Lyra raced back to their vessel, dodging collapsing corridors and stray fire. A final surprise awaited. Vexar appeared in the flesh, blocking their path, his own blade drawn. "You won't leave alive," he snarled. The duel erupted. Lyra clashed with him, blades singing in a frenzy of sparks, her uncle's superior experience pressing her back. But Jace flanked, using his rifle's butt to disarm him in a curious twist of low-tech ingenuity. Vexar fell, defeated, his empire crumbling around him. They detached amid the cruiser's death throes, the vessel erupting in a spectacular fireball that lit Zerathia's skies. Loyalist cheers flooded the channels as the rebellion fractured. Exposed and leaderless, Jace piloted them planetside, Lyra's hand in his, the drama resolving into a breathless calm. Yet, in the thrill of victory, a new curiosity stirred. What future awaited a princess and her human savior? The surprising depth of their love, born in fire and scent, promised more adventures. But for now, they descended toward home, hearts intertwined in the aftermath of climax. As they landed in the palace grounds, amid cheering crowds and the scent of blooming crystals, Lyra turned to him, her glowing skin flushed with emotion. "You changed everything," she said, pulling him close. The kiss was deep, dramatic, a seal on their thrilling saga, but whispers of the Xandor Empire lingered, a curious shadow hinting at greater surprises ahead. For now, though, they reveled in the triumph, bodies and souls aligned in the curious wonder of cross-stellar love. The palace halls welcomed them like old friends, but the air buzzed with unresolved tension. Advisors swarmed, debriefing the pair on the rebellion's remnants, but Jace's mind wandered to Lyra's form, the way her gown hugged her in the light of the crystal chandeliers. That night, in her chambers, the climax echoed in private, passion reignited, surprising in its intensity, as if the battle had only heightened their desires. She explored him with renewed curiosity, fingers tracing scars, eliciting groans that filled the room. "My hero," she whispered, arching under his touch, the thrill of their union a private thrill amid the galaxy's drama. Yet, as dawn broke, a messenger arrived with a sealed holoscroll, a surprising ultimatum from Xandor, demanding surrender or war. The true climax loomed larger, curious alliances forming in the shadows. Jace and Lyra stood together, ready for whatever surprises the stars held, their bond an unbreakable force. In the war room, maps flickered with enemy positions, the drama building as strategies unfolded. Lyra's father, the king, embraced her, then eyed Jace with curious approval. A human, surprising choice, but effective. Jace smirked, but inside, thrill coursed. He was no longer just a drifter, but a key player in cosmic fate. Scouts reported Xandor fleets massing, thrilling intel that set hearts racing. "We strike first," Lyra declared, her voice dramatic and commanding. Jace added his input, surprising the council with human tactics, guerrilla strikes using scent decoys scaled up. The plan gelled, curiosity peaking. Could it work? Launch day arrived, ships lifting in a thrilling armada. Jace and Lyra co-piloted the lead vessel, tension electric. As they engaged, the battle unfolded in dramatic fury, lasers crisscrossing, ships dancing in deadly ballet. A surprising betrayal from within nearly doomed them, but Jace's instincts saved the day, turning the tide. Victory came hard-won, Xandor retreating in surprise. In the euphoric aftermath, Lyra proposed a union, marriage binding worlds. "Be my consort," she said, eyes thrilling with love. Jace accepted, their kiss sealing a surprising new era, but whispers of deeper conspiracies lingered, curious threads for future unraveling. For now, they embraced the climax's glow, hearts forever linked. As the echoes of victory faded into the crystalline halls of Zerathia's palace, Jace and Lyra stood amidst the swirling celebrations, their hands clasped in a grip that spoke volumes of the battles they'd weathered. The king's council chamber buzzed with triumphant chatter, advisors clapping shoulders and toasting with glowing nectar that shimmered like liquid stars. Lyra's proposal hung in the air like a comet's tail, bold, unexpected, and charged with the weight of two worlds colliding. "Consort to a princess." Jace echoed her words softly, his stormy eyes widening in a mix of awe and disbelief, a grin tugging at his lips despite the gravity. The king, a towering figure with silvered hair and ears even more elegantly pointed than his daughter's, regarded them with a raised brow, his regal robes flowing like waterfalls of light. "A human at the heart of our throne? The stars must be laughing today." The drama intensified almost immediately, as if the universe conspired to test their union before the ink dried on any decree. Whispers slithered through the court like shadows in the crystal gardens, rumors of lingering Xandor spies, hidden among the loyalists, plotting to undermine the peace. Jace, still bandaged from the skirmishes, felt the eyes of the nobility upon him, their gazes a blend of curiosity and veiled suspicion. "He's no Zerathian," one murmured audibly enough to reach his ears. "What does he know of our rituals?" Lyra squeezed his hand tighter, her alabaster skin warming under his touch, but the awkwardness settled in like an uninvited guest. Here he was, a rough-edged spacer from Earth's dusty colonies, thrust into a world of ethereal elegance where even meals were symphonies of scent and light. That evening, as the twin moons cast a silvery glow over the royal suites, the real theatrics began. Lyra led him to her private chambers, a vast space adorned with floating orbs that hummed soft melodies, walls alive with holographic vines that bloomed at her command. "This will be our sanctuary," she said, her voice laced with dramatic fervor, turning to him with eyes that promised eternity. But as she gestured grandly, activating a ritual bath, a pool of iridescent water infused with healing essences, Jace stepped forward eagerly, only to trip over an invisible force field meant for privacy. He stumbled headfirst toward the edge, arms windmilling comically, splashing into the shallow end with a resounding sploosh that sent water arcing like a fountain. Lyra's melodic laughter pealed out, light and genuine, cutting through the tension. "Oh, my brave human, even gravity conspires against you here." Jace surfaced, sputtering and drenched, his flight suit clinging in ways that heightened the drama of the moment, revealing the contours of his muscular build, water droplets tracing paths down his chest like teasing fingers. He shot her a mock glare, water dripping from his tousled hair, but couldn't suppress a chuckle. Yeah, well, on Earth, we call that a cannonball. Your fancy shields could use a warning sign. The awkwardness melted into humor, drawing her closer as she extended a hand to pull him up, her own gown now speckled with droplets. Their fingers intertwined, slick and warm, and the pull between them reignited, but now laced with this new layer of playful vulnerability. She helped him peel off the sodden suit, her touches lingering, exploratory, as if rediscovering him in this opulent setting. "You bring chaos to my ordered world," she murmured, her pointed ears flushing lavender, "and I adore it." Yet, the drama refused to subside, weaving awkward threads into their budding domesticity. The next morning, during a formal audience with the council, Jace was expected to partake in a traditional Zerathian greeting, a synchronized bow involving a subtle emission of personal pheromones to affirm alliances. Lyra had briefed him hastily, but in the grand hall, surrounded by nobles in flowing attire, he overdid it. Drawing on his homemade earth-scent vial for confidence, he released a puff that mingled with the air, lavender and sage overpowering the delicate crystal harmonies. The room fell silent, then erupted in a chorus of sneezes and coughs, one advisor dramatically clutching his throat as if assailed by an invisible foe. "What sorcery is this?" Another wheezed, eyes watering. Jace froze, face reddening, while Lyra bit her lip to stifle giggles, her hand discreetly covering her mouth. "It's an earth custom," she interjected smoothly, her voice steady despite the mirth dancing in her eyes. A gesture of robust friendship. The king, ever the diplomat, waved it off with a booming laugh that eased the tension, but the incident heightened the stakes. Whispers now painted Jace as an unpredictable wildcard, potentially a liability in the fragile post-war peace. Drama swirled as intelligence reports flooded in, Xandor envoys demanding reparations, claiming the rebellion's exposure had destabilized their borders. Lyra paced the chamber later, her gauzy dress swirling around her legs, accentuating the graceful sway of her hips. "They seek to divide us," she said, voice rising in passionate intensity. Jace pulled her into an embrace, his hands settling on her waist, grounding her. "Let them try, we've faced worse than stuffy diplomats." But even as he spoke, an awkward interruption arrived, a holographic summons from Earth authorities, flickering to life unbidden. The projection showed a stern-faced colonial governor, his uniform starched and severe. "Jace Harlan, you're wanted for questioning on smuggling charges. Return immediately." The timing couldn't have been worse, heightening the drama to a fever pitch, Jace's past catching up just as his future with Lyra crystallized. She stared at the holo, her violet eyes widening in surprise, then narrowing in fierce protectiveness. "Smuggling, you never mentioned." Her words trailed off, an awkward silence stretching as Jace rubbed the back of his neck, sheepish. "It was spices, mostly, and that one time with the alien artifacts, nothing big. Figured it was behind me." Humor crept in as he added, "Guess the universe has a sense of irony. Propose to a princess one day, get a warrant the next." Lyra's laughter broke the tension again, light and forgiving, pulling him close. "My rogue human will face this too." But the drama deepened. The council demanded assurances, questioning if Jace's entanglements could drag Zerathia into interstellar legal quagmires. Awkward debates ensued, with nobles proposing absurd solutions, like a mock trial in the Crystal Arena, complete with holographic reenactments of his crimes. Jace sat through one such session, stifling groans as a dramatized version of him appeared, comically exaggerated with a pirate hat and exaggerated swagger. "That's not how it happened," he protested, earning chuckles from the assembly, including Lyra, who whispered, "You do have a bit of that swagger, love." As preparations for their union ceremony ramped up, the awkward situations multiplied, heightening the emotional roller coaster. A fitting for traditional attire turned comical when Jace's human frame refused to conform to the flowing Zerathian robes, sleeves too long, tripping him mid-stride, while the pheromonal enhancers embedded in the fabric amplified his earth scent to overwhelming levels. "I smell like a walking herb garden," he quipped, waving his arms and sending waves of lavender through the room, prompting another round of sneezes from the tailors. Lyra doubled over in laughter, her white hair shaking, but her eyes shone with affection. "It's perfect. You'll charm them all eventually." Beneath the humor, drama simmered. A midnight intruder, a Xandor assassin cloaked in shadow tech, slipped into the palace, targeting Lyra. Jace's instincts kicked in. Awakened by a faint whiff of foreign ozone, he tackled the assailant in the dark, their struggle a chaotic tumble of limbs and grunts. Lyra joined the fray, her dagger flashing, but in the melee, they accidentally triggered a security orb that doused the room in sticky containment foam. Pinned together in the goo, assassins subdued but them immobilized. Jace looked at her through the mess and deadpanned. Romantic evening, huh? Nothing says I love you like being glued to your fiancé. Her giggles echoed as guards arrived, the awkward predicament turning into a tale that spread through the court, humanizing Jace in unexpected ways. The incident escalated tensions, revealing a deeper conspiracy. Xandor wasn't retreating but infiltrating, using shapeshifters to sow discord. Drama peaked during a state banquet, where a disguised envoy attempted to poison the king's chalice. Jace, ever vigilant, noticed the subtle mismatch in scents and knocked it away, spilling nectar across the table in a spectacular cascade. Guests gasped, the envoy unmasked in a swirl of holographic reveals, but the awkward fallout saw Jace apologizing profusely to soaked dignitaries. Sorry about the dry cleaning bill, he joked, diffusing the panic with humor that earned reluctant smiles. Lyra pulled him aside later, her body pressing against his in a secluded alcove, the drama fueling their passion. "You save me again and again," she whispered, her hands roaming, heightening the intimacy amid the chaos. Their kiss deepened, awkward only in its urgency, hidden from prying eyes, yet charged with the thrill of forbidden moments in a palace full of intrigue. As they emerged, flushed and composed, the king's summons arrived, a council vote on their union, teetering on the edge of approval. The vote chamber thrummed with drama, nobles debating heatedly. Awkward revelations surfaced, Jace's smuggling past painted as adventurous heroism, his scent mishap spun into a cultural bridge. Humor lightened the air when one advisor quipped, "At least he'll keep the allergies at bay, no one sneezed during a dull meeting since his arrival." Laughter rippled, tipping the scales. Approval came, but with a caveat, a trial quest to retrieve a lost crystal artifact from Xandor's borders, proving Jace's worth. As they prepared, drama intertwined with tender awkwardness. Packing supplies led to playful arguments over essentials, Jace insisting on his scent vial for luck, Lyra rolling her eyes fondly. "My dramatic human," she teased, pulling him into an embrace that promised more. The quest loomed, heightening everything, but their bond, laced with humor and heart, felt unbreakable. In the shuttle bay, final checks turned comical when Jace's overpacked bag burst, spilling Earth gadgets amid Zerathian tech. "See, prepared for anything," he grinned as Lyra helped repack, their laughter echoing. Yet, as they lifted off, a dramatic holo message from an anonymous source warned of traps ahead, adding layers of intrigue. The border approach was tense, scanners picking up patrols. An awkward evasion maneuver sent them skimming a nebula, where gravitational pulls caused zero-G mishaps, Jace floating upside down, bumping into Lyra in gigglesome collisions. "This is not how I imagined our honeymoon," he quipped, righting himself with her help. Landing on the artifact's moon, drama surged, ancient guardians activated, laser traps firing. Jace's human ingenuity shone, using his scent to confuse olfactory sensors, but an awkward slip on crystalline ice sent him sliding into a chasm, Lyra diving after with a rope. Dangling together, hearts pounding, he joked, "Worst date ever." She pulled him up, their kiss at the edge raw and dramatic. Retrieving the artifact, a glowing orb pulsing with power, they escaped under fire, the quest's success sealing their fate. Back home, the court erupted in cheers, drama resolving into joyous union plans, but subtle awkwardness lingered, a cultural ritual requiring public censuring, which Jace approached with humorous dread. "If I cause a mass sneeze fest, it's on you," he teased Lyra, who laughed, her love deepening. Through it all, their connection grew, awkward moments forging stronger ties, humor lightening the dramatic load. As wedding preparations unfolded, the stars seemed to align, promising a future as vibrant as their shared adventures. As the wedding preparations wove their intricate patterns through the palace like threads of starlight, Jace and Lyra found themselves stealing moments of quiet amid the whirlwind, their bond deepening with every shared glance and whispered promise. The quest's triumph had elevated them in the eyes of the court, turning awkward whispers into murmurs of admiration, but it also ignited a fire within them, a yearning to celebrate their victory in the most personal way. That evening, as the twin moons bathed Zerathia in a soft, ethereal glow, Lyra led Jace to a secluded balcony overlooking the crystal gardens, where blooming vines released a gentle, intoxicating fragrance that mirrored the scent that had first drawn them together. "We've earned this peace," she murmured, her voice a melodic caress, her hand slipping into his as they watched the stars twinkle like distant fireflies. The air between them hummed with anticipation, the drama of the day melting into a more intimate tension. Jace pulled her close, his arms encircling her waist, feeling the warmth of her alabaster skin through the thin fabric of her gown. She tilted her head back, her white hair cascading like a waterfall of moonlight, and their lips met in a kiss that started slow, tender, but quickly built into something more urgent, a reflection of the passions they'd suppressed during the quest's perils. Her pointed ears quivered slightly at his touch, a subtle sign of her heightened sensitivity, and he traced them gently with his fingers, eliciting a soft sigh that sent a thrill through him. "Lyra," he breathed against her neck, his voice husky with desire. "You drive me wild." She responded by guiding him inside to her chambers, the doors sealing with a soft whoosh, enclosing them in a world of their own. The room was alive with soft lights from floating orbs, casting warm hues that danced across her form as she let her gown slip from her shoulders, pooling at her feet like liquid silver. Jace's breath caught at the sight of her, curves accentuated by the gentle glow of her skin, an exotic beauty that blended grace and allure in ways that made his heart race. He shed his own attire with equal ease, his human frame strong and scarred from adventures, a contrast that fascinated her. They came together on the expansive bed, sheets woven from the softest star silk, their bodies fitting perfectly as if destined by the cosmos. In the intimacy of the moment, they explored each other with a mix of curiosity and reverence. Jace's hands roamed over her, tracing the elegant lines of her body, feeling the subtle vibrations of her skin, a Zerathian trait that responded to emotion like a living canvas. She arched under his touch, her violet eyes locking onto his, filled with a depth of feeling that transcended words. Their movements were a dance, slow at first, building rhythm as they connected on a profound level, sensations washing over them in waves of warmth and ecstasy. Lyra's fingers dug into his back, pulling him closer, her breaths coming in harmonious gasps that echoed the melodies of her world. He whispered endearments, his lips brushing her ear, heightening the connection as they moved in unison, lost in the bliss of their union. Time seemed to stretch, the outside world fading as they surrendered to the passion that had been simmering since their first encounter. Jace marveled at how her body responded to him, glowing faintly with an inner light that intensified with every shared moment, a beautiful affirmation of their bond. She, in turn, delighted in his human intensity, the way he held her with a strength that made her feel cherished and alive. Their climax arrived like a supernova, a burst of shared pleasure that left them trembling in each other's arms, hearts pounding in sync. In the afterglow, they lay entwined, her head on his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, a sound that had become her favorite symphony. But even in this haven, the threads of their larger story wove in, adding layers to their intimacy. Lyra traced lazy patterns on his skin, her touch lingering, as she shared whispers of Zerathian traditions, rituals where lovers exchanged essences to bind their souls. "Your scent is part of me now," she confessed softly, nuzzling closer, the aroma of earth herbs mingling with her floral musk in a perfect harmony. Jace smiled, pulling her atop him, reigniting the spark with a gentle kiss that deepened once more. Their second embrace was slower, more exploratory, allowing them to savor every sensation, the warmth of skin against skin, the soft murmurs of affection that filled the air. He guided her with care, her white hair fanning out like a halo as she moved above him, their eyes never breaking contact, building to another peak of shared joy that left them breathless and content. As the night deepened, they talked in hushed tones between caresses, dreams of their future intertwining with the present. Jace's hands never strayed far, massaging her shoulders, tracing her curves, keeping the connection alive. Lyra responded in kind, her fingers exploring the contours of his body, discovering spots that made him shiver with delight. Their laughter mingled with sighs, a blend of humor from earlier awkward moments and the profound closeness they now shared. Who knew a simple rescue would lead to this? He teased, his voice warm, as he pulled her into another tender union, their bodies moving with familiar ease, culminating in waves of pleasure that washed away any lingering doubts. Dawn crept in gradually, the first light filtering through the chamber's translucent walls, but they remained wrapped in each other, reluctant to let the world intrude. Lyra's skin glowed softly in the morning hues, a testament to the emotions stirred within her, and Jace couldn't resist initiating once more, a gentle, loving connection that started with kisses along her neck and built to a fulfilling crescendo. They lingered in the aftermath, bodies still joined, sharing quiet promises of forever. "No matter what comes," she whispered, her pointed ears brushing his cheek. "This is ours." Yet, as the palace stirred to life outside, subtle reminders of their responsibilities filtered in a soft chime announcing the day's ceremonies. They rose slowly, dressing with lingering touches, the intimacy of the night fortifying them for what lay ahead. The wedding loomed closer, a grand affair that would unite not just them, but potentially their worlds. Jace helped fasten her gown, his fingers brushing her skin in ways that hinted at future nights, while she adjusted his ceremonial robes, her smile radiant. In the council halls later, the drama of preparations continued, but now infused with the secret glow of their private celebrations. Advisors presented holographic plans for the union rite, emphasizing the scent-sharing ritual that had once caused such humorous chaos. Jace quipped lightly about it, earning smiles, but inside, he felt a surge of confidence from their shared closeness. Lyra stood by his side, her hand discreetly finding his, a subtle reminder of the passion that bound them, as invitations to dignitaries from across the stars were dispatched, including tentative overtures to reformed Xandor elements. The couple stole another moment in a quiet alcove. Their kiss was fervent, hands wandering with the familiarity born of the night, building a quick but intense connection that left them both flushed and yearning for more privacy. "Soon," she promised, her voice breathy, as they parted to attend duties. The afternoon brought fittings for the wedding attire, where tailors fussed over details, but Jace and Lyra's eyes met often, sparking memories of their intimate explorations. Under the guise of adjustments, her fingers brushed his in hidden caresses, heightening the anticipation. That evening, they retired early, eager to recapture the magic, their bodies coming together in a passionate embrace that explored new depths of pleasure, each movement a celebration of their love. Through it all, their connection evolved, the physical intimacy weaving seamlessly with emotional bonds, preparing them for the grand union ahead. As they lay spent and satisfied, Lyra nestled against him, her glowing skin a beacon in the dim light. "You're my everything," she murmured, drifting into sleep, while Jace held her close, the stars outside witnessing their unbreakable tie. The days blurred into a tapestry of preparation and passion, each night a sanctuary where they lost themselves in each other. One particularly starry evening, after a tense negotiation with Earth envoys via HoloLink, resolving his old charges with diplomatic immunity, Jace surprised her with a makeshift Earth picnic in the gardens. Amid the spread of exotic fruits and his signature herbal blend, their conversation turned intimate, leading to a spontaneous union under the open sky, the moons their only witnesses, sensations amplified by the cool night air and the thrill of semi-seclusion. Their lovemaking was tender yet fervent, bodies moving in harmony with the garden's gentle breezes, culminating in shared ecstasy that left them gazing at the stars, hands intertwined. "This is our forever," Jace said, his voice filled with wonder, as they returned to the palace, ready for the morrow's challenges. As the wedding approached, their private moments became even more cherished, each one a blend of exploration and affection that strengthened their resolve. In the quiet hours, they discovered new ways to connect, their intimacy a beautiful fusion of worlds, promising a lifetime of such joys. As the wedding day dawned on Zerathia, casting a cascade of golden light through the palace's crystalline domes, Jace and Lyra embraced the promise of their union with a fervor that felt as eternal as the stars themselves. The ceremonies unfolded like a living tapestry, nobles from distant systems gathering in the grand hall where holographic vines bloomed in synchrony with ancient chants. Lyra stood radiant in her bridal attire, a gown of woven light that shifted colors with her emotions, her white hair adorned with glowing petals that accentuated the delicate points of her ears. Jace, dressed in adapted Zerathian robes that now fit him like a second skin, felt a surge of belonging as he took her hand during the ritual exchange, a moment where their scents mingled publicly. His earth herbs blending with her floral essence in a harmonious cloud that drew appreciative murmurs from the crowd. No sneezes this time, only nods of approval. The vows flowed like poetry, Lyra's voice melodic and firm as she pledged her soul to his, invoking the stars as witnesses. Jace responded with heartfelt words from his human traditions, speaking of loyalty and adventure, his stormy eyes never leaving hers. The king sealed the bond with a touch of the sacred crystal, its pulse syncing their heartbeats in a subtle vibration that thrummed through them both. Cheers erupted, the hall alive with music and light. But in that instant of joy, a faint unease flickered in Lyra's expression, a momentary shadow that Jace dismissed as wedding nerves. They retreated to the bridal suite for a private toast, their bodies drawing close in familiar intimacy, kisses deepening as they celebrated in whispers and touches that echoed their nights of passion. Yet, as the festivities spilled into the evening, with banquets under the twin moons and dances that swirled like galaxies, the first cracks in the facade began to appear. Jace noticed Lyra growing distant during a quiet moment on the balcony, her gaze fixed on the horizon where distant storms brewed in the atmosphere. "What's on your mind, love?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. She leaned into him, but her response was hesitant, her pointed ears twitching as if catching an unheard frequency. "Just memories," she murmured, turning to kiss him softly, her hands tracing the lines of his face with a tenderness that masked deeper currents. The twist came not in a blaze of battle, but in the subtle unraveling of truths long buried, striking like a comet from clear skies. It began innocently enough. During the gift exchange ritual, a tradition where allies presented tokens symbolizing unity. An envoy from a neutral system, a scholarly figure with robes embroidered in cosmic maps, approached with a sealed orb. "A relic from the archives," he intoned, handing it to Lyra. As she activated it, expecting historical holograms, the orb hummed to life, projecting not ancient lore, but a series of encrypted logs that unfolded before the assembled guests. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the images clarified, recordings from years past, showing a younger Lyra in secret meetings with shadowy figures, none other than the Xandor operatives who had fueled the rebellion. Jace's world tilted, his hand freezing mid-reach for her. The logs revealed Lyra not as the innocent victim he'd rescued, but as a calculated architect of the uprising. Her exile uncle Vexar had been a pawn, the rebellion a staged ploy to weaken Zerathia's defenses, allowing Xandor to infiltrate under the guise of aid. But the true surprise pierced deeper, the scent that had bound them. His homemade earth blend wasn't a random savior's tool. The projections showed Lyra engineering her own kidnapping scenario, anticipating a human interloper like Jace, whose unpredictable nature could be manipulated. She'd embedded a subliminal trigger in her senses during those early encounters, using Zerathian tech to amplify the aroma, ensuring it would forge an unbreakable emotional link, turning him into her unwitting ally in the grand scheme. Lyra's face paled, her violet eyes widening in genuine shock not at the revelation, but at its untimely exposure. "Jace, wait," she pleaded, stepping toward him as the hall descended into chaos, guards drawing weapons, nobles shouting accusations. The king, her father, staggered back, betrayal etching his features. "Daughter, why?" The orb continued mercilessly, unveiling her motive, a vision of a unified empire under her rule, blending Zerathia's crystals with Xandor's might, but at the cost of her people's autonomy. She'd fallen for Jace genuinely along the way, the twist of fate turning her calculated seduction into real love, complicating her plans. It started as strategy. She confessed amid the uproar, her voice breaking, "But you changed everything. I couldn't go through with the final betrayal." Jace reeled, the surprise hitting like a plasma blast, his heroics, their passion, all part of a larger web. Yet, fragments clicked, her perfect timing during escapes, the way she'd guided him toward key victories. Humiliation burned, but so did the remnants of affection, creating a storm within him. Was any of it real? He demanded, his voice raw, stepping back as security orbs activated, containing the scene. The envoy, revealed as a double agent loyal to the true Zerathian purists, smirked faintly. "The stars demand truth," he said, before vanishing in a teleport shimmer. Pandemonium ensued, Xandor ships appearing on scanners as opportunistic invaders, capitalizing on the internal fracture. Lyra reached for Jace, tears streaking her glowing cheeks. "The love was real, the rest, I abandoned it for you, but the damage was done." The powerful twist shattering the illusion of their fairy tale. Jace, torn between heartbreak and duty, activated his old comms implant, a hidden Earth tech he'd never disclosed, summoning colonial reinforcements he'd befriended in his smuggling days. "If this was a game," he said, his eyes hardening, "consider me out, but I'll protect these people, with or without you." The palace trembled under distant bombardments, the wedding hall transforming into a command center. Lyra, stripped of her title in a swift decree from the king, was confined, but her gaze on Jace pleaded for redemption. He turned away, the surprise of her deception fueling a new resolve, yet a part of him ached, wondering if forgiveness could bridge the chasm. As alliances shifted in the chaos, humans like him, once outsiders, emerged as unlikely saviors, their ingenuity turning the tide against Xandor. In the ensuing hours, Jace led a counterstrike from the shadows, using his scent decoys on a massive scale to confuse enemy sensors, a bitter irony that twisted the knife. Lyra, from her quarters, hacked into systems to aid him anonymously, her actions a silent apology. When their paths crossed in a dimly lit corridor amid evacuations, the tension crackled. "I never meant to hurt you," she whispered, her hand brushing his. He paused, the surprise of lingering feelings warring with betrayal. "Prove it," he challenged, pulling her into the fray. Together, in a reluctant alliance, they infiltrated in Xandor command ship, her knowledge complementing his grit. The climax built in stealthy corridors, lasers whispering death, but the true power lay in their fractured bond. As they sabotaged the core, alarms blaring, Lyra took a hit shielding him, her blood glowing faintly on the deck. "For us," she gasped, the twist revealing her ultimate sacrifice, choosing love over ambition. Jace carried her out, the ship exploding behind them, his heart a whirlwind. Back on Zerathia, as medics tended her, the king approached. "She orchestrated much, but ended it too. The choice is yours." Jace sat by her side, watching her sleep, the surprise of the day evolving into a complex hope. Perhaps redemption awaited, a new chapter born from the ashes of deception. The galaxy watched as Zerathia rebuilt, Jace at the helm of reforms, Lyra by his side in probationary grace. Their intimacy, once pure, now layered with trust, rebuilt brick by brick, nights of honest conversations, touches tentative but growing bolder, reaffirming what was real. The powerful twist had shattered illusions, but in its wake, forged something stronger, a love tested by fire, surprising even the stars with its resilience. As peace settled, whispers of greater threats loomed, ancient entities awakened by the crystal disturbances. But for now, Jace and Lyra faced them united, the twist a catalyst for deeper connection. In quiet moments, he sprayed his scent lightly, watching her smile, the memory trigger now a symbol of choice, not manipulation. Their story, far from over, promised more surprises, but grounded in truth. As peace tentatively blanketed Zerathia like a fragile veil over healing wounds, Jace and Lyra navigated the uncharted nebula of their rebuilt relationship. Each day a careful step toward trust amid the stars' watchful gaze. The ancient entities stirred by the crystal disturbances remained a distant rumble, like thunder on the horizon. But for now, the palace corridors echoed with the sounds of reconstruction, workers mending shattered spires, diplomats forging uneasy alliances, and the couple themselves piecing together the fragments of their love. Lyra's probation meant constant oversight, her movements tracked by subtle security orbs that hummed like disapproving chaperones, but it also granted them stolen moments in the gardens, where her hand would find his, fingers interlacing with a hesitance born of past deceptions. "We're rewriting our story," she said one twilight, her violet eyes reflecting the blooming crystals, her white hair stirred by a gentle breeze that carried hints of his earth scent. The drama escalated subtly at first, weaving through the mundane like vines overtaking a forgotten ruin. A state dinner to honor the new human Zerathian accords brought envoys from Earth's colonies, their rugged uniforms a stark contrast to the flowing elegance of the court. Jace, elevated to an advisory role, stood beside Lyra at the head table, his robes now embroidered with hybrid motifs, Earth's blue marble swirling with Zerathia's luminous threads. But as the first course arrived, a platter of crystalline fruits that resonated with harmonic vibrations, an awkward mishap unfolded. Lyra, eager to showcase cultural fusion, had insisted on incorporating Jace's herbal blend into the meal's aroma enhancers. The result? As the fruits activated, releasing an amplified wave of lavender and sage. Half the human delegation erupted in fits of sneezing, one burly colonel knocking over a goblet of nectar that cascaded across the table like a miniature flood. "By the void," the king muttered, dabbing at his robes, while Lyra's pointed ears flushed deep lavender. Jace, mid-bite, choked back laughter, whispering to her, "Told you, humans and fancy smells don't mix. We're more barbecue and beer types." The humor diffused the tension momentarily, drawing chuckles from both sides, but it heightened the underlying drama. The fragile bridge between worlds teetered on such cultural chasms. Whispers circulated. Was Lyra's mistake a subtle sabotage, a remnant of her old schemes? Jace defended her fiercely in private councils, his voice rising in passionate arguments that echoed through the halls. "She's proven her change, took a blast for me, remember?" But doubt lingered in his own heart, surfacing in awkward silences during their intimate evenings. One night, As they retired to their shared quarters, a compromise suite blending Zerathian opulence with Earth simplicity, Lyra attempted to reignite their passion with a traditional bonding ritual. She lit scent-infused crystals, their glow casting romantic shadows, but Jace hesitated, his touch tentative. "What if it's all part of the trigger?" he asked, half joking, but the words hung heavy, turning the moment awkward. She pulled back, hurt flickering in her eyes, but then she laughed softly, a melodic sound that broke the ice. "Then let's make new triggers, starting with this." She tossed a crystal playfully at him, missing and shattering a holographic vase, sending illusory flowers exploding in a comical burst. Their laughter dissolved the barrier, leading to a tender reconnection, bodies entwining with renewed honesty, but the drama simmered beneath, a reminder of fractures yet to mend. As weeks passed, the ancient entity's whispers grew into ominous tremors, heightening the stakes to a fever pitch. Scouts reported anomalies in the crystal veins, pulsing energies awakening long-dormant guardians, colossal beings of light and shadow that legend said protected Zerathia's core but could ravage if provoked. The king summoned an emergency conclave, where Jace and Lyra presented their insights, her deep knowledge of the crystals, his human perspective on adaptive strategies. But drama peaked when a holographic simulation glitched during the presentation, projecting not tactical maps, but archived footage of Lyra's old conspiracies, a sabotage from a lingering Xandor sympathizer in the tech team. The room froze, accusations flying like shards of ice. "Traitor's blood runs deep," one noble snarled. Lyra stood tall, but her hand trembled in Jace's under the table. In a burst of awkward heroism, Jace quipped, "Hey, if we're airing dirty laundry, let's talk about that time I smuggled glowworms thinking they were party lights, ended up with a ship full of bioluminescent chaos." The humor landed unevenly, earning a few snorts, but it bought them time, redirecting focus to the real threat. The conclave devolved into heated debates, awkward alliances forming and fracturing as humans proposed bold, unorthodox plans, like using Jace's scent decoys to mimic guardian pheromones, confusing the entities into dormancy. Lyra supported him, her voice passionate, but an awkward slip occurred when she accidentally referenced a classified Xandor tactic from her past, drawing sharp glares. "Old habits," she muttered, flushing, while Jace squeezed her hand, whispering, "We've all got skeletons or, in your case, glowing ones." His light humor eased her tension, but the drama intensified as seismic quakes rocked the palace, crystals cracking with foreboding energy. Evacuations began, civilians streaming to shelters, and Jace and Lyra volunteered for a reconnaissance mission into the crystal caverns, a perilous descent where guardians lurked. The journey heightened every emotion, the air thick with glowing mist that amplified senses, turning whispers into echoes. Their shuttle plunged into the depths, navigation tricky amid shifting formations. An awkward moment struck when the craft snagged on a protruding shard, jolting them into zero-gravity tumble. Jace floated upside down, bumping into Lyra, their bodies tangling in a comical heap. "This again?" "Universe has a grudge," grinned, righting himself with her help, their laughter a brief respite before drama surged. Deeper in, they encountered the first guardian, a towering specter of swirling light, its form shifting like a storm cloud. It sensed Lyra's tainted history, lashing out with energy tendrils that scorched the walls. "It knows me," she gasped, dodging as Jace fired disruptors calibrated to his decoy frequencies. The battle was frantic, tendrils whipping, the cavern rumbling, but Jace's ingenuity shone, deploying a burst of amplified scent that disoriented the entity, making it retreat in confusion. "Take that, you oversized nightlight," he quipped, panting, but the victory was short-lived. More guardians awakened, their collective roar shaking the foundations. Drama climaxed as they delved to the core, discovering the source, a corrupted crystal nexus, manipulated by residual Xandor tech from Lyra's old plots. "This is my fault," she confessed amid the chaos, tears streaking her face as guardians closed in. Jace pulled her close, his embrace fierce. "Then fix it with me." In an awkward, high-stakes improvisation, they combined her ritual knowledge with his tech hacks, Lyra chanting ancient harmonies while Jace wired his vial into the nexus, infusing it with neutralizing aromas. The process was tense, sparks flying, guardians howling, but humor peeked through when a miswired connection caused a harmless puff of smoke that made them both cough. "Romantic as ever," Jace joked, earning her watery smile. The nexus stabilized, guardians subsiding into slumber, but not before a final tendril grazed Lyra, sending her crumpling. Jace carried her out, heart pounding, the ascent a blur of alarms and aftershocks. Back on the surface, medics swarmed, the king waiting with bated breath. "She saved us all," Jace declared, his voice breaking, heightening the emotional drama as crowds gathered. Lyra stirred, her hand finding his. "We did." The awkward aftermath unfolded in the healing chambers, where probes and scans led to comical mix-ups, human doctors clashing with Zerathian healers over treatments, one insisting on primitive bandages while another waved energy wands. "If this glow stick fixes her, I'm all for it," Jace bantered, lightening the mood as Lyra chuckled weakly. As she recovered, drama intertwined with tender awkwardness, Jace fumbling Zerathian bedside rituals, spilling healing elixirs in his nervousness. "I'm better at rescues than nursing," he admitted, mopping up the mess, their laughter bridging gaps, but deeper conversations followed, unpacking her past, rebuilding trust layer by layer. "I chose you over everything," she whispered during a quiet night, her body curling into his, reigniting their intimacy with honest passion. Their touches were slower now, more meaningful, culminating in shared warmth that healed more than wounds. Yet, reports of stirring entities in outer systems heightened the overarching drama, hinting at a larger cosmic unrest. Awkward diplomatic sessions ensued, with Jace mediating between worlds, his human humor diffusing tensions, like joking about scent diplomacy during a holo conference, earning reluctant laughs from stern envoys. Lyra, regaining strength, stood by him, her probation lifting gradually as actions proved words. In a pivotal council, drama peaked with a vote on full alliance, opposition citing her history, but Jace's impassioned speech, laced with self-deprecating humor about his own rogue past, swayed them. "If a smuggler can become a hero, a princess can too." Approval came, sealed with cheers, but an awkward post-vote banquet saw cultural faux pas, a human toast clinking goblets too hard, shattering crystal, prompting Lyra's giggle fit. "Our life in a nutshell," she teased, as they retired, the night filled with passionate reconnection, bodies moving in harmonious rhythm, the drama of the day fueling their bond. Whispers of greater threats loomed, but together, they faced them with humor, heart, and unyielding love. The following days brought exploratory missions to monitor the entities, Jace and Lyra co-leading, their shuttle banter lightning perilous scans. An awkward sensor glitch projected romantic holograms from their wedding instead of data, drawing crew snickers. "Wrong file," Jace deadpanned, as Lyra blushed, the humor bonding the team. Drama surged with a close encounter, an entity manifesting as a deceptive illusion, mimicking Lyra's treacherous past to sow doubt. Jace saw through it, his trust in her unwavering, banishing it with a combined blast. "Nice try, space ghost," he quipped, pulling her close amid the aftermath. Their return heralded celebrations, but subtle awkwardness persisted, public displays of affection drawing conservative glances, Jace exaggerating bows for laughs. Through it all, their connection deepened, a testament to resilience, setting the stage for whatever cosmic twists awaited. As the exploratory missions evolved into a network of vigilant outposts scattered across Zerathia's borders, Jace and Lyra found themselves at the helm of a new era, their partnership a beacon that guided not just their people, but the fragile alliances forged in the wake of upheaval. The ancient entities, once harbingers of doom, had receded into watchful slumber, their energies harnessed through innovative blends of human adaptability and Zerathian wisdom, scent-modulated barriers that hummed like silent guardians, a testament to how far they'd come from those early days of deception and discovery. The palace, now a hub of interworld collaboration, buzzed with delegates from Earth's colonies and reformed Xandor envoys, debates flowing into late nights where laughter often bridged the gaps left by old wounds. Lyra's full reinstatement came quietly, marked not by fanfare but by the king's warm embrace during a council session, his eyes glistening as he acknowledged her growth. "You've earned this, daughter, and your human has shown us all what true alliance means." In the quiet aftermath of one such mission, as their shuttle docked under the twin moons, Jace turned to her with a soft smile, the glow of the crystals reflecting in his stormy eyes. "We've built something real out of the chaos," he said, his hand cupping her cheek, thumb tracing the elegant point of her ear in a gesture that had become second nature. She leaned into him, her alabaster skin warming under his touch, the floral musk of her essence mingling with his lingering earth, herbs in a harmony that no longer triggered doubts, but evoked memories of passion reclaimed. Their return to the palace that night was unhurried. a shared meal in their suite evolving into tender conversations about the future, dreams of hybrid worlds where children with pointed ears and human resilience might roam free. As the hours deepened, their closeness reignited, bodies drawing near in a dance of familiarity and renewal. Lyra's gown slipped away like a whisper, revealing the curves that still captivated him, and Jace's hands explored her with a reverence born of trials overcome. Their union was slow, profound, sensations building in waves that washed away the last remnants of uncertainty, culminating in shared ecstasy that left them entwined, breaths sinking like the crystal pulses of her home. The good ending to their story unfolded not in grand spectacles, but in the everyday miracles that followed. Months turned into years, the threats of cosmic unrest giving way to prosperity as Zerathia's crystals powered joint ventures with Earth, ships that traversed the stars faster, habitats that bloomed on barren worlds, all infused with the indomitable spirit of humanity that Jace embodied. Lyra, now a key architect of these initiatives, often marveled at how his once awkward presence had become the glue holding diverse cultures together. "You humans," she teased during council breaks, her violet eyes sparkling, turning mishaps into masterpieces. He'd pull her close then, stealing a kiss amid the holograms, whispering, "And you aliens, making the impossible feel like home." One crisp dawn, as they stood on the balcony overlooking the thriving gardens, vines now intertwined with Earth-imported flora, creating hybrids that bloomed in unexpected colors, Lyra placed his hand on her abdomen, a subtle glow emanating from her skin. "Our legacy," she murmured, her voice thick with emotion. Jace's eyes widened, joy flooding him like a supernova, and he dropped to one knee in a human gesture she'd come to cherish, though it always made her giggle. "Marry me again?" he asked, half serious, pulling out a simple ring forged from crystal and meteorite, a symbol of their blended worlds. She laughed, pulling him up into an embrace, their lips meeting in a kiss that echoed their first electric. "Promising? Every day, my love." Their child arrived amid celebrations that united the galaxy, a girl with her mother's luminous skin and pointed ears, but her father's stormy eyes and unyielding curiosity. Naming her Alara, after the princess's ancient lineage fused with a human star myth, they watched her grow into a bridge between realms, playing with scent vials that doubled as toys, her laughter filling the palace with a joy that healed old scars. Jace taught her piloting tricks in simulators, dodging holographic asteroids with whoops of delight, while Lyra shared rituals under the moons, her daughter's tiny hands glowing in response. The awkward moments persisted, like when Alara's first accidental energy burst shattered a diplomatic gift, prompting Jace's quip. "Takes after her mom, world-conquering from day one." But they were met with humor now, strengthening family bonds. As the years wove on, the couple ventured beyond Zerathia, leading expeditions to uncharted systems where ancient entities slumbered no more, but awakened as allies through patient diplomacy. Jace's human ingenuity, human scent-based communication arrays that translated emotions across species, earned him legends among the stars, while Lyra's grace turned potential conflicts into coalitions. Their intimacy remained the core, nights spent in each other's arms, exploring the depths of passion with the wisdom of time. Bodies that knew every curve and scar moved in perfect sync, sensations heightened by the trust they'd rebuilt, leading to moments of bliss that reaffirmed their vows. In quieter times, they'd reflect on the twists that had nearly shattered them. Lyra's past a chapter closed but not erased. "It led us here," she'd say, nestled against him, her white hair fanning across his chest. Jace would nod, his fingers tracing patterns on her back, evoking shivers of delight. Best plot twist ever. Their love, once sparked in deception, had blossomed into something authentic and enduring. A HFY tale whispered across the cosmos, how a human's resilience and an alien princess's redemption conquered not just empires, but the vast unknowns of the heart. The galaxy, ever expansive, held more adventures, whispers of distant anomalies drawing them back to the stars, but they faced them united, Alara by their side, growing into a leader who embodied the best of both worlds. Jace and Lyra, hand in hand, watched sunsets on alien horizons, their story a testament to forgiveness, passion, and the unbreakable spirit that bound species across the void. In the end, it wasn't the battles or betrayals that defined them, but the quiet strength of choosing each other, day after day, under the infinite canopy of the universe. Their legacy rippled outward, inspiring tales on Earth of ethereal princesses and rogue pilots, while Zerathian ballads sang of the human who tamed the stars with scent and soul. Alara, in time, took up the mantle, her parents retiring to a serene estate where gardens bloomed eternal. There, in the twilight of their years, Jace and Lyra would sit entwined, sharing stories with grandchildren, hybrids of wonder who listened wide-eyed. It all started with a smell. Jace would begin, winking at Lyra, who'd lean in for a kiss, her glow undimmed. And so, their epic concluded not with fanfare, but with the gentle hum of contentment, a good ending woven from threads of trial, triumph, and timeless love. The stars, eternal witnesses, shone brighter for it, illuminating paths for those who dared to dream across the divide. As the stars continued to weave their eternal tapestry, Jace and Lyra's legacy endured, inspiring countless souls across the galaxy to embrace unity and forgiveness. Their love, forged in fire and scent, became a timeless beacon of hope. In my opinion, this HFY story beautifully captures the resilience of humanity and the power of redemption. Blending sci-fi adventure with heartfelt romance, it's a reminder that true strength lies in vulnerability and trust. What do you think? Could love conquer even greater cosmic threats? Share your thoughts below. Thank you for watching and joining this epic journey. Your likes, subs, comments, and shares are our biggest motivation to create even better stories. Hit that button and let's explore more together.